Good evening, everyone. Happy April Fool's Day. Thank you for tuning into the Bonus Point Podcast MLR update series featuring the Rugby Index. My name is TJ Olsen and joined by the fellas once again from the Rugby Index, Cam and Walker Tice. Cam, I'll come to you first. How are you feeling after the second week of the Major League Rugby season?
Good. I'm interested to see how the pace of play keeps up. It seems like we're actually getting some pretty high-scoring matches.
High scoring, yeah, definitely.
I'm anxious to see if this is some early opportunities that are coming around because guys are knocking a year's worth of rust off, or is this just some high-octane offense that we're bringing to the table?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Walker, lots of action over the weekend, like we just said, and I know you would have enjoyed the games over the weekend. What was your favorite moment of the weekend?
I'll give a shout out to the old man, Adam Ashley Cooper, seeing him get one in. I'll give a shout out to the old man. He's a back. I don't want anybody to get too out of sorts, but it was nice to see him get one in this weekend. That'll be my highlight.
Yeah, the salt and pepper hair, and he still looks like he's freaking 21 with the face. I'm very jealous. I hope I can look that good at that age. But let's get cracking and talking about the matches because, like I said, there was a lot of action over the weekend, and we're going to jump into our rapid recap of all the games. So Rooney suffered a massive loss to Nola Gold, 51-28. That was a pretty shocking one. Rugby ATL going down against Old Glory, 30-23. New England making up for last week's loss, trouncing the Sabercats 32-0. The Warriors living up to their name, getting the win 39-24 over Toronto. The Legion narrowly beating the AGs 14-11. That was a very tight game. And the Guiltinis smashing the Seattle Seawolves 57-26. So that is a great way to segue into our first game. So let's talk about the LA versus Seattle game. When we look at this game, it's obviously quite a lopsided victory with LA running away with this one. But if you also look at how early the Guiltinis scored and how quickly they brought on their bench, this could have easily been a worse score. I'm predicting something like 60, 70 points. So I want to talk about Seattle first, who are back-to-back champions, and some argued could have won possibly 3 in a row had COVID not played a factor in the season in 2020. Each year, Seattle were the shining example of what a great MLR team is supposed to look like or what they could be. However, when I look at them now, I kind of think they're at a bit of a disadvantage this season. I believe it has to do with them dropping the ball in their recruiting in this offseason. That's just my personal opinion. They drafted well to pick up a guy like Aaron Matthews. They had a couple of good signings, but they didn't really make a big splash and pick up some top-tier talent like other franchises. I also feel when you look at the other coaches that have been signed, various front office executives, I think they're just lacking in that department. It's not saying they're doing a bad job. It's just other teams are just doing better jobs. So, Walker, I'll come to you, and Cam, I want to get your opinion as well afterwards. Will we see the Seawolves in the playoff picture this year, or have they been pushed out of that upper echelon?
To be short with it, no. I don't think so. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they've got a really good core. It's great to see Ben Sema back. They've got a really good core group of guys and that they've retained over the last couple of years. But I think you hit the nail on the head. They just don't have that star power, whether it's in the midfield, whether it's in the loose forwards. And they've got talented guys, but that upper echelon of talent that we see with the Guiltinis or, with Nola, because like who would have thought? But sticking on the particular game, they just didn't have that star power. They really struggled, and honestly, LA beat them at their own game. LA outkicked them by 150 meters, and that's traditionally Seattle's game is kick, pin you back deep, play solid defense, and let you make a mistake. And Seattle won possession, but it felt like they were pinned back. And in LA, just when they did get the opportunity, they had that star power and they just buried tries left and right. I think they had 9. So it's opportunities. It's being opportunistic and utilizing that star power that LA had. And obviously the star power that I feel like Seattle doesn't have.
Cam, agree, disagree? What do you reckon?
I haven't ruled Seattle out of the playoff yet. Obviously, starting off 0-2 is not the ideal route to go, but there's 14 matches still left in the season, and a lot can happen between now and then. Watching the game, I think it was Seattle. One, how uncharacteristic is it for them to put up 57 or allow 57 points? I don't know. I think they're probably going to have a very hard look internally because, I think they gave up something like 28 in the previous match. That's just not them. They're very much a grinded out kind of win that 20-14 match, that 22-20 match. They always found a way to win. And I pretty fully expect them to get back to that. And once they have some time to get their feet under them, ultimately, I mean, they played a very good game. They just didn't capitalize on any of the opportunities they really had. They had more meter, or I'm sorry, the stats are pretty close with LA. The possession they won, they dominated the lineouts. The problem is they just didn't have, I think to Walker's point, they didn't have the star power to get those big breaks, which, LA beat them 9-3 on the line breaks. So if you're talking about explosive play, LA had all of it and Seattle was struggling to find something. And I think that's something we're going to see play a much, much bigger factor in the MLR as we get more talented and dynamic players into the league. If you can't, you don't have to dominate the carries or the kick meters with possession. If you can have those explosive plays and, efficiently score, you don't have to, march it down the field.
Yeah, I will agree with you that I think the rugby IQ is quite lopsided as well. I saw one play, I think, off a set piece where it was Billy Meeks. He was running a 12 ball and he made at least four defenders plant their feet, so no real nomination of who was going to take who. It was basically just a ball out the back to Matt Giddo, and they were able to score a try off that. Something where if you have that rugby IQ and you're able to manipulate it very well, I think they're able to do it like the best of them, the Giltinis. But like I said, their roster is quite stacked, and how intelligent and experienced the coaching staff is as well, I think really plays a part. You see performing over these last two games. I honestly, like I said in the previous part when we were talking, I honestly think they could have dropped at least 70 points on the Seawolves team. They brought their bench on very, very early. I think a lot of the fans agree with that. However, I'm starting to see LA show they're in a class of their own, I think, when it comes to a few different facets of the game. So, Cam, if you had to pick a team that is going to take this LA team down, who would you pick?
It's kind of funny. I actually kind of got into some banter on Twitter the other day about this. Someone, I can't remember the account, put LA third in their personal power ranks, and that made me scratch my head pretty hard. But I don't know how you don't put them at the top. They've got so much firepower that I don't think anybody can keep pace with them. They will stumble. I don't think they're gonna do anything, pull a perfect season or anything like that. I think it's gonna be a while though. I'm looking forward to that matchup with Nola. I think shot for shot, and Nola needs to get a little bit healthier on the wings. They've got both their starters out right now. If they can get a little bit healthier, and I don't know what the timetable on those guys returning is, but they get a little bit healthier, and Nola plays like they did against New York, I think they can match the firepower of them. I don't think anybody's going to. It's sort of like watching the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, I take that back. We saw what happened in the Super Bowl, but they're not a team you try and contain. They very much beat themselves in that. And unless LA beats themselves where they have, a massive amount of handling errors or just, miss out on a huge number of opportunities to match, they're not going to – it's not going to be a low-scoring game, so you have to match them point for point, and that's how you're going to be. And as much as I've seen the first 2 weeks, Nola's the only team that has the firepower to do that.
I do want to come back to this NOLA conversation. We are going to talk about them in our next game, but I think that's a good comparison. I think a lot of people are making that explanation when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA. Is they're not, even though they're probably one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA, you're not going to outscore them. They've just got too much firepower on the other end. So I think you have to go blow for blow. That's a good point, Cam. Walker, who do you think is going to take down LA at the moment?
think. I don't think anybody is. To be fair, I mean, if I had to pick a team, I think it's the other SoCal team. I think it's San Diego. I think that they're, to your point, when they get some of their when Rob Shaw starts playing, when they get some of their star power activated, they've got a really talented backline, an interchangeable backline. They had a really heavy rotation this week, just throughout the lineup. Shout out to our boy Chris Shade, getting some minutes and
Old Shaderade.
Yeah, the Shaderade.
That's a great nickname. I love that.
Oh, he's
got
an
many.
icon. He
Touche.
he's a fan favorite here. But no, I do think San Diego in this moment is maybe the team to take them down. If you ask me today who's going to win the championship, it's LA. I don't see any way around that. I don't think that there's going to be another team that catches them. The only maybe concern that I could formulate is because of their age over the course of a 16-game season. How much does their depth really contribute and complement the pieces that they do have in the starting lineup? But first 15, you take that first 15 against any 15 in the MLR, I think they win 9 out of 10 times, if not 10. So I think LA is the team to beat, and everybody's chasing. And I'm surprised by that. That certainly wasn't my opinion to start the season. I thought that they were going to struggle with continuity, but that long preseason camp is really paying dividends for them. And look, their rugby IQ is just far superior to the rest of the league. Their option plays, their movement through the back line, their interchangeability of everybody in open play. It's just different than every other team.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that the age of some of the players and the attrition that comes along with some of those games, especially in such a high impact, high contact game, it will take its toll in the end. I think I'm not saying Darren Coleman or Stephen Hoyles or any of these coaches are even thinking like this, but they could adopt a load management scenario where if they're able to get enough games or enough wins under their belts and they know that they're in the playoff picture, they could adopt that load management. We've seen coaches do it previously to save their players for playoffs. You never know what will happen. We'll see. But they've definitely got a lot of talent, a lot of young talent that can jump up, put their hands up and go and play a game. So, yeah, we'll see. But LA is definitely the front runner at the moment. They're leading points and statistics in a lot of areas. But let's move on. We'll talk about our second game, which was Nola and Rooney. This was another game that was very lopsided as Nola got the win over Rooney. That has been a championship contender every year in the MLR. Rooney's been in the competition. So I want to talk about Rooney first with that in mind. Although Nola played some good offensive footy, I feel Rooney only had themselves to blame for a good chunk of Nola's tries. They came off interceptions, sloppy passes, and a few 7-point tries have come off in that. So we're seeing that new trial law where if you score under the post, they are deemed an automatic 7 points. So I think that they just shot themselves in the foot with a lot of their passes. So Cam, I'm going to come to you with this one. We've seen Rooney beat a championship contender in the San Diego Legion, and they suffered now this pretty big loss. Do you believe this will be something that we should expect from Rooney moving forward, or was this just a one-time blunder?
They've got the roster to compete. They're very solid up and down. Their roster right now. Honestly, I think they need to change up their game plan because for whatever reason, they were playing this very flatline, stagnant kind of almost it's something you see in collegiate club rugby, kind of just pitching the ball around, trying to create some space in a phone booth and put a guy through, and then maybe he runs through. And I just don't think it's going to work at a higher level. And I just really confused me why they went with that strategy, especially early on. That's where a lot of those handling errors were coming through. It worked really well against San Diego at times, trying to create small space and small gaps and putting a guy through with their offloads. But it just got super sloppy against Nolan. I don't know if it was the heat or what, but if they can clean it up, maybe I'll have a different opinion of it. But it seemed very very undynamic and very below their level to play that style of rugby.
No, I agree with that. I think if you are going to play that type of rugby, you really have to have people that can execute at least 90% of the time. It's quite risky to play that flat ball, especially when you have someone who is quick to the rucks like Andy Ellis. He's obviously able to get there quite quickly, distribute early. If you're not going to have someone who's there ready for the ball and able to hit those lines or adjust through that contact, I don't think it's going to be a very effective attacking move. So I'm in agreement with you. Walker, what did you see from Rooney that you think could improve them next week? Or do you think that this is just going to be the way they're going to play?
No, I don't think that they're going to be stuck in this rut. I don't know how much, the lockdown of New York has created. I know it's created challenges for them. That's not to make excuses for them. That second half against San Diego, they played exactly the style of ball that you mentioned. Andy Ellis was at the breakdown before it even went to ground, and the ball was out, and it felt like half a second. And it was just it was a little bit of pop pass, but just one ball runner after the other, and it was just a game of attrition. It was a little bit of smash mouth, and I just didn't see that this week. Again, to Cam's point, maybe it's the heat. Although they were out in Vegas, it didn't look too brutally hot last week. At least yet, it's still pretty early in the season, and I don't know. I don't know that I could put my finger on it. If you take away maybe two of the big plays that Nola had, this is a 37-28 game, and it's not as egregious as it feels. And I'm not writing New York off yet, not in any sense, especially as much parity as there is in the East. I mean, I feel like every team is going to be kind of in the fight till the end, as far as at least right now. As far as what's going to right the ship for New York, I think getting the ball back into Will Leonard's hands. He had a phenomenal game against San Diego Legion. I think really leaning on him. I think leaning on their back three, especially Foden, just his experience and his knowledge, his craft. I think getting the ball in his hands and just letting him be dynamic is really going to it's just going to bring a different energy to their back line. And I just didn't see dynamic movements in their back line or open play. A lot of, option plays. If it's not there with the forwards, they've got the 9 or 10 behind and they option out. And then they've got another pod that they can swing it to of forwards or even the centers. And it was just kind of that smash mouth rugby that we see at club or collegiate level. Not to say they're not capable of more, because they certainly are. And they've got the skill sets to do it. I just think that they were undynamic in their attack. And otherwise, I thought they played a decent game. They dominated Meter's game by I think they had maybe the highest of the week or the second highest of the week, only to the Old Glory. They won possession by 60 to 40%. So by those statistics, you would think that they were going to be a lot closer. And I think if you take away a couple of those interceptions or just, I don't want to call them lackadaisical mistakes, but maybe fluke mistakes, but just mistakes, making an extra pass when you shouldn't. And maybe that's hypocritical to my previous point of trying to be dynamic and making that extra pass. But just being efficient and executing it. And so I think New York, keep doing what you're doing for the most part, continue to be dynamic at the breakdown and getting Andy Ellis in and out of there quickly, and good things are going to happen.
I think shout out to Jolie Tikosuva, who had the 2 tries off those 2 interceptions. Man, yep. I saw those. He read them like a book. You could see he was already in the space before the pass even threw him, and he was just gone to the wind. But
it's a winner's favorite defensive play. They don't have to make a tackle, and they get all the glory.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I played wing. My mom still talks about when I was playing. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was playing fullback for my club in Australia, and she still talks about the intercept to this day. And I was like, yeah, you never mentioned any of the forwards or any of the guys doing the hard yards. It's just me getting the intercepts and scoring the try, and then somehow a brawl broke out because we won the game. But yeah, it was yeah, that's the only thing that matters. Cam is just the wingers scoring the tries. It's awesome. But let's talk about Nola. Let's talk about Nola, because although I believe they put together a pretty impressive performance, obviously on the offensive side, I feel Nola really let their team down on the defensive side. So obviously quite a big margin in the score, but they leaked a lot of early tries on simple defensive readings. I don't know if it was miscommunications, exhaustion, maybe possibly because of the heat, or if they're employing a rugby league tactic, which I've been seeing some rugby union coaches doing, where they want 2-player tackles, because a lot of the times you would see a pretty easy 2-on-2, and then you would just see the winger come in and he would try and make that tackle. So there's a dumb move by a winger that a lot of people just try to brush under the rug. But a lot of times they could have easily defended that. So Walker, if Nola, do they need to fix their defense or to become championship contenders, or do you think they're already there?
They gave up 51 points. Something's got to change, you know. And again, at least I think 3 of those tries came off of offensive turnovers. So, or at least 2 of them did. I thought there was a third, but you know, 14 of the points definitely came off of passing errors on an offensive possession. You know, other than that, the other 37 points. If you're giving up 37 points, otherwise, you're not winning championship. You're not winning championships. How they fix that, I think I'm sorry, I have it in the inverse. I'm talking about New York.
I was about to say, I was sitting there going,
Nola gave up 28 points. Yeah, Nola conceded 28 points.
Yeah.
No, I think they will continue to grow with continuity. They've got a new back line for not back row playing together. So just getting those guys spread it throughout the field. Cam Dolan isn't necessarily known for being a defensive stalwart. So guys like Malcolm May, guys like Devin Short really have to really step up and kind of just exceed expectations. The centers I thought did well. Duplessis did well, and I don't know that they need monumental changes. I think, to your point, a little bit more communication, a little bit more just man-on-man tackles, one man, one tackle, and you put them down. And maybe the league style double tackle is a method that they implemented, and obviously it didn't work a couple of times. But you know, I don't know. I think they're doing the right things. 28 points isn't egregious against a really solid New York team that we saw against San Diego, especially that second half. So I think they keep working on it, keep refining it. I don't know that they need monumental changes, but if they continue to improve, you're going to see championship rugby out of NOLA.
Agree, Cam? Do you think they can become a championship contender?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think there was one JoJo. He gave up close to the end of the first half, and I think it was because he was just getting hungry for another pick off. He kind of shot up into the back line. They got the ball out to Dylan Fawcett, and then I forget who he popped it back into, but he popped it back inside for somebody to finish the try. And I think they just got a little greedy with trying to go for the big play. I think if they can just temper that mentality with, you know, there is a calculated time to go for that big play and to capitalize on a mishandled ball, but you can't do it every time. And especially when New York's out there and they are having pretty solid ball movement, it's just not the time to shoot up and try and go for the home run. So to Walker's point, it's just some minor cleanups. I think if any team can hold, an offense to 2 or 3 tries, maybe a penalty kick here or there. If you can keep a team under 25 points in this league this year, I think you're probably going to see a lot of wins.
Yeah, well, I know our boy, the Hammer, Rob Hammerschmidt, was at that game live, so I know he would have enjoyed that one. Had a few too many beers. He would have liked that. But let's move on. We'll talk about Oh, just enough. Yeah, they're just the right amount. But let's talk about our final match of the week, and that was DC versus ATL. Although it was a 1-score difference, I was very happy with what I saw.
Oh no, TJ, come back.
We miss you. Come back. Loading.
So I guess this is our show now.
All right.
So now we're going to talk about Danny Tusitala for the next 30 minutes.
Sounds good. I like that. So that was point. Damn, why get this fixed? Everyone's telling me to move to Spectrum. I think I'm going to have to do it. But yeah, I think I really like Danny Tusitala. He looked very comfortable in that fly half jersey as Jason Robertson wasn't available. And we know how dangerous that backline is. But I think this was a really forward dominant game with a lot of grunt work, a lot of broken tackles. They were pretty impressive in the scrums. So Walker, who were you most impressed with on that DC side?
Well, I mean, we already said him, Danny Tusitala. Being able to move from 9 to 10 is not easy. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities in the role, helping direct the offense and defense. But being able to pivot like that is a massive asset to have. I thought Jameson Fontanana Schultz had a solid game. I think obviously their scrummaging was great. And to your point, and I think collectively they just had a really solid game. I don't know that there was anyone that did monumentally better than the other, but they just had a really solid game. They had over 500 more meters than ATL and gained. They dominated possession. I think they had the most possession out of any team on the weekend with 62%. When you have ball in hand, the other team can't score, and you're going to continue to grind them down. Playing defense for 62% of the game is brutal. So if they can continue that possession, you're going to win a lot of team games. And I think they've really improved their back line. I wasn't sold on it previously against NOLA. Obviously, NOLA last week could have put that away maybe a little bit earlier and ended up with a tie. So I think DC is a team to watch. I'm not sold on them as a championship team quite yet, but I think they're certainly a contender in the East.
And Cam, I'm going to come talk to you about ATL to finish this off because I believe they're a very dangerous side in broken play, and they're able to get very quick ball from the rucks, which led to their first try in the first half. We spoke about it last week, is that DC, they were the second fastest team in ruck speed last season. And I think that ATL is going to start giving them a run for their money. But I do think what they're lacking is they need to fix their scrummaging because they have one of the worst scrum one percentages in the league. But still a few positives from their side. I believe they had a pretty good game. They just fell short against a pretty tough DC side. So who were you, Cam, most impressed with on the ATL side?
That's tough because I wasn't horribly impressed with them. I really like that I don't know if he plays 6 or 7, but that Connor Cook, he's in every breakdown. He's a menace defensively at every breakdown. I would love to see what his ruck arrivals are because I'm sure he's probably somewhere near the top 5, top 3 in the league. And you don't see a lot of 6 and 7s be the go-to in a lineout. And so, hat off to him for being their best weapon in lineout. And they've actually got a pretty good lineout. And I think he's the best part of it. I just don't – this Atlanta team makes me feel a lot of different ways. They play great defense. They're a great collective team. But just like a lot of teams we're seeing in the West right now, they don't have much firepower. And – I think that's going to catch up sooner than later with a lot of these teams.
Cam's all up in his feels. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Feeling so many different ways. I love it. Okay. Well, before we finish off, I'll, just like last time, I want to give you guys an option for an honorable mention. So, Cam, I'll let you go first, and then Walker, you can go.
My honorable mention is Goddard from LA. Got to stick with my scrum halves. Actually, I'll stick it with 2 scrum halves. One, I'll go Goddard. Hats off for a hat trick in only 60 minutes. And my second one is Sean Hartig for DC. He stepped in for Tusitala at 9, and if it weren't for that beautiful blonde lion's mane that he's got, you wouldn't know the difference, because Hartig did a fantastic job of keeping that pace, of getting ball out of the ruck. And I don't think enough people appreciate how hard that is to do for an entire game or for even 60 minutes. And I think he's subbed out somewhere near the 60th. And that's when Danny dropped down. But it's tough. It's brutal on, the cardio to try and do that and do it at a high level. And I really didn't see any bad feeds to the 10. And, just hats off to him for keeping that pace.
Yeah, I think they can probably do what the Hurricanes did with TJ Perinara the last couple seasons. They would have him come on as 9, and then they would push him to 10 at like 60 minutes in. They could probably reverse that, so they could have Danny with now having Danny slot into that 10 position, and then he can finish off in the 9. I think he can definitely do it because of his I guess his cardio when it comes to playing for Samoa sevens and that kind of stuff. He can definitely play 80 minutes. He's not going to have any stress with that. But Walker, finishes off. Honorable mention.
The Wappa, Jamie McIntosh from the AGs. I got to stick with my front rows. He got team of the week. I thought he had a really solid game, a low scoring game against the Legion. A little bit of a grinder, obviously, and Legion pulled that out at the very last minute. But no, Wappa had a solid game. And anytime I can give some love to my front rowers, especially my props, I'm all about it.
You guys stay consistent. I like it. It's good stuff. We keep a nice balanced show. I like it. But we'll move on. It's called the bonus point for a reason, as this is an American show talking about the Major League Rugby. We're going to talk about something that every American league talks about, and that's MVP candidates. So you think with every league, we know that it's early in the season, but the NBA talk about MVPs every day of the year. So we're going to do it too. Now, because it is early, we're going to give you guys at least 2 chances to talk about MVP caliber players. Not just going to be one. I'll give you guys 2 options. I'll go first, then Walker, then Cam, then we'll just do a second round. And for my first pick, I'm pretty sure everyone knows who I'm going to pick. He's from New Zealand. He's currently the leading point scorer in the MLR, and he's got arguably the best hair in the MLR. That's Danny Tusitala. We were just talking about him. We love to talk about him. And fun fact for anyone who's listening right now, he will be on our show next week. So get ready for that one so we can dive deep about what he thinks about the – yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be the Major League Rugby insight everybody wants. But I think, like I said, with Jason Robertson out for a while, Danny's going to play an even bigger role in the side, being able to bounce between that 9 and 10 jersey. His support play – it's phenomenal. It's every time they need him, he's always there. You saw last week in one of the amazing tries that he scored. He's just going to be a standout for this team for this season. So, yeah, that's my first pick. Walker, who you got?
I think it's that sevens experience coming in, all those support lines. My first one, I stay on brand. Dylan Fawcett had a really solid couple of games.
Damn it! Come on.
The Butcher. I mean, look, he always brings his A game. A couple of tries last week, had a really solid game this week. Captain for New York. He's dynamic on offense, a great ball in hand runner. He's at every breakdown, it feels like. Defensively, he helps organize the defense. He does everything well, and really well at that. So if I had to pick an early forward, it's Dylan Fawcett.
Well, thanks for stealing my pick, mate. Really appreciate that one. Man, so, well, Scotty, I know
you can't be surprised by that.
I'm not surprised, but I know Big Scott, the big guy, is going to be happy that you chose Dylan Fawcett, and I know that he's going to be happy about the Rooster Booster press that he's going to get, and I know I have a rooster in my backyard. They're gonna come back fighting next week, so they'll be fun. But yeah, Cam, who have you got for your first one?
My first one's Carl Meyer, the 15 out of NOLA. I thought they were playing. Well, you stole mine, so I thought he was playing a little bit of position out of 15, but he honestly can play anywhere in the back line. I've been really impressed with his kicking ability this year. He's as sure as it gets when it comes to needing some points off a tough conversion. And on top of that, he's been great with ball in hand. His defensive kicking has been strong. I think he's just a little bit of an unspoken glue to that backline for NOLA right now.
Well, because you guys took mine, I'm going to have to think of a couple other ones. I've got some in mind, but I'm going to have to do the toss-up. So we're going to go backwards now. So, Cam, I'll let you go your second one.
Well, you stole my other one, so now I got to do some thinking.
All right, fine. No. I'll go first. Fine. Everybody wants to put me on the spot and take my picks. That's fine. I'm going to go Hagen Schultz. I think that he's obviously I got to stay on brand. He's a Kiwi. I've got to keep that in. But I think he's got a lot of good experience with Glasgow. He can play both fly half and fullback. I think that versatility, when you think of valuable, that's what I really think of. And I think at the moment when you come from that standpoint, they're obviously not having the best season as a team. But when you look at that valuable standpoint, a lot of people have a debate about impact and value for the team, about what an MVP really is. I think he's right up there. So Walker, go ahead. Give us your next one.
Give us your front row.
It's not a front rower. Why do you just make assumptions?
What do you mean? You got to stay on brand, man. Come on.
Well, I started on brand. I like to deviate sometimes. I got to keep you boys on your toes. Come on.
Yeah, you definitely did. All right.
DTH. DTH Vandermeer.
Fair enough.
With the firepower that he has around them, the other team is going to get just absolutely abused by the LA centers. And I think it's just going to be left and right, swinging the ball out to DTH. Unfortunately, I think Ryberg is going to be the victim of DTH scoring so many tries. But I don't see LA slowing down. I don't see him slowing down. I think he's maybe top 3 right now in tries. I could be totally off on that, but no, just with the firepower that he has around him and obviously his own skill set, to nobody's surprise, he's putting in tries left and right. And I would say he's an early front runner for me.
I think DTH, he was top 3 last week, but I think now with Danny scoring a couple of tries and Malolo getting one from the Warriors, and Cottrell getting one. Cottrell's actually in front of him right now, which is pretty funny. But he's definitely when you think of value, he's got it written all over his jersey, man. Yeah. Cam, all right, give us the last one.
I'm actually going to stick with Walker on this one. I can't believe you didn't pick this one, TJ. Matt Gitto for LA. You can kind of just go up and down that LA back line, and you're probably not going to give a bad answer.
Yeah.
But he's definitely been, I don't know, that I think he's been the point guard, so to speak, distributing the ball. And I think that doesn't go unnoticed to most fans, at least if you're, watching how the plays develop. I don't know where he's at on try assist, but he should be up there. And on top of that, his kicking ability is just as strong. So I think he could keep this up at a pretty high pace. And as we see some of these other guys maybe take some rest and, miss some minutes or some matches, I don't think they're going to move him from that spot, and I think he can really rack up some stats.
See, I'm really conflicted on this one because on one side, I love him for this team because you are right. He is definitely the quarterback, and he's definitely able to get the team to where they need to be. He's setting up a lot of tries. He's leading the troops. But on the other hand, he's brought me so much pain over the years when he played for the Wallabies and for the Brumbies. I can't just turn around and go, yeah, he's an MVP, even though he definitely is. So I'm very conflicted. I want to save some of my homerism as well for later in the season, so I can just be LA all day.
Yeah, that's early. Don't start now.
Exactly. If I do it too early, then everyone's just going to be all over me if they don't pan out. So there you go. But there's no way they're not going to. I
was going to say I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, it's definitely inevitable.
I saw you kind of biting through your lip there, trying to just say something about LA, but held yourself back.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to like knock on wood. I'm trying not to do anything that'll say they're definitely 100% going to win. It is inevitable in my eyes that they are going to, because you look at the firepower. I've spoken to the coaches. They're geniuses on every sense of the game. So you're right, it is inevitable, but we just have to wait and see. I guess I don't want to jinx it completely, but we'll leave it. We'll leave it there. Those are our MVP candidates. Thank you for listening today to to the podcast brought to you by OsteoStrong LA Macro Butter. Guys, any final words? Who we looking at watching this weekend?
Cam, the honors.
Oh, I honestly haven't really looked at the matchups yet. Let's take a look. What we've got coming up? Pull up my handy Rugby Network app.
Rugby Network is pretty good. I'm pretty excited to see the Giltinis play the Arrows, just because I know the Arrows haven't been having a good go of it, but I just want to see after a couple of weeks how they're going. AGs and Nola Gold as well. I'm pretty excited to watch that game. I think that's going to be very interesting. I know the AGs aren't the team that are going to come out firing, but they may be able to contain Nola. It is a possibility. Yeah, I don't really know. Seawolves and Utah, I think that'll probably be a pretty even matchup.
I'm ready for the Texas Cup. We got AGs and
That was mine.
Yeah.
I was going to take Texas.
A lot of thievery going around here.
I think both those teams, after a pretty rough start, could use kind of a bounce back game. I think both Austin and Houston have the ability to kind of right the ship pretty quickly if they clean up some things. But they're also kind of on that point where if you start 0-2, morale can get down a little bit and things could get kind of out of hand pretty quickly. So this will be a good match where they're probably pretty even. And, one team will come out on top and have some confidence finally to build off of.
Well, May 1st, Old Glory DC, they play the Giltinis. So I'm going to be pretty excited for that one. That'll be a good game. They'll be playing in the Coliseum. You get to see that great Lions mane, as you called it, Cam, running through the Coliseum. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, boys. Glistening in that California sun. Yeah,
that might be the highest scoring match of the season. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that match gets up to 100 points collectively.
Oh man, that might be a good one. Yeah, I think defensively, Giltinis we'll see. I think they can hold their own, but yeah, Old Glory. I saw some good little faceplate moves put in by them, so it'll be pretty exciting. But we'll leave it there, boys. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you are listening live and if you are going to listen via Spotify or YouTube, Rugby Index boys, Cam and Walker Tice, be sure to check them out on social media. They are posting all the good stuff as soon as it comes out. Boys, any final words or any plugs you want to do? Walker, I'll let you go first.
I think I did my plug at the beginning of the show, but shout out again, Shaderade, fan of the program, friend of the program. Excited to have a conversation with Danny next week.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah, Cam, what do you got?
If I come in next week with a blonde mane, don't be terribly surprised.
Are you sure your fiance will let you do that?
I might have to ask forgiveness and not permission on this one.
That's always the best way to do it. Is ask for forgiveness. Never ask for permission. It's always going to be no.
Yeah, that might be the route on this one.
Far out. If you do that,
I've got one more
champion.
strong half shout out actually. Damian Stevens for NOLA. I think he's probably going to quickly force him to put him in a starting role, because while I understand their logic of bringing in his speed. And Holden Younger, their starting scrum half's pretty solid too. But I think bringing in his speed and leaving it on the field for 60 minutes and bringing in Younger at second would be, I just don't know how they just look so much more dynamic. And that's where you saw those second half points really just jump off on them, is when he got in and they just looked that much quicker and that much more dynamic with him on the field.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll finish it off by saying shout out to Cal Poly Rugby, this amazing jersey that I'm wearing. The women just got the go-ahead to come back to training, and I believe the men did as well. So it seems to be collegiate rugby's coming back in. I obviously didn't play for them, but someone is trying to convince me to go take a grad program up there so I can go play a couple of years of rugby. So that would be some good fun. But shout out to all the collegiate programs, the alma maters that are coming back into play now that COVID is hopefully on the rise down with all the vaccines. But thank you everyone for tuning in. We will see you next week with our guest, Danny Tusitala. Very excited to have him on the show. Stay tuned and we'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Cheers, boys.